Let's play 1K. 40K is a complex, time-consuming, and kind of a spacious game at times. So that's why 1K games are quite popular, especially now in this edition, especially when you're new and getting to the game, trying a new collection, or just trying new models. But the wall is powerful and mighty, regardless of its size, as long as you're wise. So today we're going to discuss some similarities between 1K and 2K. That way you can kind of know how to collect your models and and play with your models. And then as well as maybe some out of the box options, some fun stuff that you can take off your shelves. A little bit dusty. Maybe they don't get playing 2K right now for some reasons, but at 1K they can. So we're going to go over that too. Like we like to do, always start from casual and get a little bit more competitive with our list as well. So going right in, we're going to talk about the tips and tricks to playing 1K. So one thing to keep in mind, especially if you're not used to it, if you played 1K in previous editions, you would play on smaller table sizes. In 10th edition, you play on the same size table as a full K 2K game. Keep that in mind. 2, the ability to score secondaries greatly matters, as it's actually so random now in this edition, as everybody knows, right? You're drawing cards. Some of it might be killy, and everybody's always going for killy. But when you're playing on a big table, Orks are one of the few armies that can optimize the ability to score those secondaries quite handily, right? Reduced firepower. So whatever durable units you can think of off the top of your head already and that we go over today, keep in mind that they work in 2K as well, but in 1K, they are optimized, more efficient, way more tanky. Hint, hint, Mazrog. Quantity is a quality in itself. As we know as Ork players, having models, having units is value, is what makes us powerful. Some other armies are, I have these bricks, I have these killing things. Orks, you just have a lot of things. And that's really how we play the game. That's how we play the mission. And movement wins games, right? Men win battles, logistics wins wars. Well, guess what? Orks and 40K go hand in hand because Orks win the movement phase. The fact that we can advance and charge, the fact that we have decent movement, the fact they like the initiative in the game is how you win in 1K as well. And it helps you practice for good resource management, as you have less models on the field, yet you're still playing on a massive table, right? So every movement, every unit counts. If you end up throwing off into the side of the corner, going off on a stray objective, a stray secondary, and you discombobulate your whole army's synergy, you'll notice that very quickly in 1K. And it's a good way to learn as you move into 2K as well. With that being said, let's start with a casual 1K list as an example of something maybe I'd run with my friends or someone that's new to the game, etc. Right? So right off the bat, when you're playing 1K, especially if you're getting new into 40K, let's practice all the phases of the game. Let's use models that are fun to play with, a little bit out of the box, and cover a bit over the trees while still trying to play the way that Orks play. So right off the bat, we got the big mech with the shock attack gun. You're obviously going to combine that with the one mech gun that you see on the list. We got the Death Killer Wartrike with super cyborg body. That's a sleeper of durability right there, as people will not be expecting that, and the speed and the initiative you can get off that model is greatly helpful in 1K, especially if you're just playing casual to catch people off guard. Of course, you got the War Boss. In this case, you have Cunning but Brutal. I understand a lot of you would say Head Wappa's Kill Chopper. Go ahead, fiddle the points a little bit. All these lists are only within 5 points of each other, right? You got one unit of battle lines. I assume you at least got 10 boys because you a war boss, right? I like the Battle Wagon. Battle Wagon is one of those units that you could try at 1K, really start to appreciate its durability, and then slip it into your 2K list, especially if you end up collecting 2, right? One unit of Gretchen, because everybody has that. 3 War Bikers, go ahead with the Death Killer Wartrike. Burner Boys. Burner Boys are some that can go in your Battle Wagon alongside the boys. You got 1 mech gun, 3 killicans, right? Everybody likes their killicans, and they're one of those models that is useful in multi phases of the game. They will shoot, they will fight, and they will stand and hold an objective for you with their passive decent durability, considering their T8 with the great armor save. So that being said, you top it all off with the Shock Jump Dragster. We know that competitively you'd say Storm Boys, but if you like some flavor and you got some speed on you, you'll bring that Shock Jump Dragster. Mess with some opponents, maybe infantry characters with that precision keyword, take over the corners of the battlefield with your ability to teleport around the field all throughout the game and really bother your opponents, catch them off guard, or just casually get an objective with the 3OC buggy. So I definitely like this kind of list because it helps you play every phase of the game, get different feels for different models, different types. You're not skewing into anything. It fits in overall your collections, and you can have a great fun with it. But if you got to get a little bit more pizzazz on your list, or maybe you just got a thing for pigs, you move over to a mid-competitive list, right? This is something that you still want to play with your friends. You want to have a good time at your local game store. You want to have a good time with some friends. You want to use the new models that you maybe got because you're a beast snagga person. You like squigs. You see that their new model line. You know that you're going to move into a more competitive way to play in 2K. This is along the lines without really going overboard into what's going to make someone just win a 1K tournament, right? So here you have the Beast Boss on foot, giving him the feel no pain is another way to stack that durability in such a small game. Most of the time, they're going to use their small arm fires to try to clear the boys that he's going to be attached to. When he's left with that feel no pain, he's going to cause some problems, especially when the units decide to countercharge him if they don't have the proper weapons. Beast Boss on Squigosaur, just bringing another character. His being T10, 4 up feel no pain, 5 up invuln, in and itself without any enhancements is great utility, great durability. It's going to cause so many problems for your opponents when you have Mazrog right alongside him, right? So Mazrog just standing right up in there with him, 2 thick T10 models with feel no pains, and your Beast Boss on foot has feel no pains. But let's go on to the Nabon Smash Squig. I like the Nabon Smash Squig as sometimes you're just going to use Mog as an intimidation factor. Sometimes you're going to use a Beast Boss on Squigosaur as a distraction Carnifex. But the Nabon Smash Squig almost acts as a scaffold unit in this 1K list because that 3-man unit of Squighog boys that he's going to be alongside with might take the Overwatch, might take the counter charge. But all in all, when his purpose on this list is to take out your enemy's tank unit, to take out the enemy's problem of anti-monster, anti-tank, and he's one of the more reliable ways to get there as he has the unit to kind of hold him. And sometimes you're just going to use your main characters to hold objectives and bother people. That being said, you move on to a unit of Beast Snagga boys. You need someone for the Beast Boss to be on attached to right alongside a truck. Straightforward. You're not spamming trucks yet. You're not on that level, but you still want some mobility in the truck utility. Right after that, 1 unit of Grotz, the Squighog boys we spoke about. The Storm boys, as Storm boys are great, as we spoke about previously, for scoring secondaries, getting all over the table, late game advance and charge, stuff like that. And then you move on to the Warbikers, are maybe a first turn throwaway unit, something you can run up on an objective, try to clear a screen unit. But they still play the secondary part of the game and just to get more models on the field. That way you don't get too elite with your mid-sized competitive list. Now, if you want to adjust this, add more squigs, you totally have the possibility to do it if you mess with any of these. Say you want to drop the Nabon Smash Squig and start adding more units from dropping the Warbikers. That's okay. But this is this is just an outline, an archetype of you need a certain amount of units so you can continue to play the game, not just strictly going to I just want to kill you. Or you can just mix up maybe a battle wagon into here, just like from the prior list if that's what you own. The idea is to keep a theme of durability, complexity that can still play the secondary. But let's say you already know you want to win a 1K list, the tournament. Let's just say you don't care about your friends that much. No. Let's just say you're here to crump some gits. You're just there to win the event, and you've been watching a lot of 2K games, but you're not ready to move on to exactly doing what you've seen. Well, let's go into the spam. Now, you're looking at this. Oh, exactly, guys. We know what competitive play is. What this does is it hones in on one of the 2 main archetype ways. You can play as an Orc player and just try to win your 1K game. This has already been proven on several, as we like to go, Meta Wednesdays, that when you go to a 1K event with something like this, you're optimizing one of the main ways Orcs play the game, which is scoring secondaries, controlling the rate of attrition, winning the skirmish battles, controlling the board, and throwing mortal wounds onto your opponents with grenades from the boys, with the charges from tank shock from the trucks, and you're just there. And a lot of people are going to look at this and be like, man, oh, that's toxic. I get it, but this is to show someone, if you have this really is going to work at 1K as well, and you're going to steam people. If you have less trucks, that's okay. You can start to swap it out. What I'm showing you is this is the archetype of how you optimize the 1K way to play Orcs when you start getting competitive. But we don't need to go too hard on this because this is just a condensed, very clean version of 1,000 points of straight up truck spam. And if you've been paying attention to the meta 2K, you know that is one of the main ways to play. But I know that's not always fun. So that being said, we'll talk about some key units and some fun, flexible units that you can throw on your list. Let's say you're somewhere in between a mid and a casual. There's a lot of other units on here and some units that you might want to keep in mind, maybe because they didn't come up on your list, and that's okay. We're going to go over them. Now, key units, in my opinion, a truck, obviously. Storm boys, obviously. But knobs and a war boss. That's another unit that I like to call a scalpel unit, something that will come in there. It's profile of getting up to strength 10 during the WAAAGH will help you deal with a diverse, different data sheets that are going to be all over the meta or a 1K game, because you're not going to have all the weapons and utility that you're going to have at 2K. So War Boss with the knobs is a nice flat all-purpose scalpel unit that is going to inflict damage into multiple different data sheets. The Battle Wagon works at 2K, but sometimes you got to bring a couple more. You got to hope you don't run into the wrong meta. Well, guess what? Battle Wagon at 1K, most people are not going to have the utility to take that out at one turn. I promise you that, as long as you're utilizing cover and not running into the wrong spam. But if you have a Battle Wagon, feel free to start running that at 1K. You will have great fun. Your opponent might not. Killicans are some of those units that's wishy-washy at 2K. People might be saying they're very slow. Maybe I'd rather use Mega Knobs. I can't put them in a truck. Throw them on your 1K games. They're a multi-phase model. They can use in the shooting phase. The rockets are going to be very useful to you. The flat 3 damage are going to be very useful to you. The durability is going to be something that people are going to have to take account for if you already have other trucks and tank models or Miles Rug on your list, right? The next thing is Flash Gits and Bad Rug. We know that they're amazing at 2K. They're still going to be a decent at 1K. They're going to cost you a pretty penny, but feel free to throw those shooting lads on your list, because having the ability to work in multi phases of the game, not just ignoring the shooting phase because you're an orc, really does enhance your ability to win games and deal with the different complex unit types that you're going to run into, or list types. Now, Beast Snaggas, the 6-up, feel no pain. Getting up to higher strength during the wall is definitely going to make a difference when you're playing at the 1K, but also just having boyz in general, that's why there's a slash there, is going to make a difference as well. The OC, the fact that boyz as a whole are just dirt cheap at 85 points, you're going to love that. And the knob in the unit does come into play when he's the last one standing, as a lot of you know. Beast Boss on foot, he doesn't tend to always make it on the 2K list. There's a lot of really good units on 2K that you can start using. People are going to opt for more squig characters sometimes. They're going to opt for maybe War Bosses on foot with the knob. But at 1K, the ability to get devastating wounds on the charge throughout the game is going to put him over the top, in my opinion, when it comes to him or the War Boss in most cases in 1K. That's why I find him to be very optimal. Maz, he's optimal all the time. Warbikers being T6, being fast, small arms fire, being able to run around the table throughout the game and try to screen or score the other secondaries that you need. They do have assault, so they can advance and do these things. 2K, you might not be sure. You might just use Storm Boys and ignore them. 2K, have some fun, put them on there. You won't miss out. Squig Buggies are another unit. You want some shooting. You want to deal with indirect. You want to start depreciating some of these blobs of enemies that you have, these gun platforms that you know are going to try to counter the units that you have that are trying to punch them. Squig units to chip, hold your backline, hold your primary objective. You'll appreciate it. And then if you have to, you get into the game, get some mortal wounds on people. Burner Boys. For the most part, people are going to bring some sort of chaff, right? Burner Boys help you deal with the chaff and not have your one unit of boys or 1 foot melee unit running into screens. That would be very, very unfortunate. Burner Boys help deal with that in certain matchups, and you'll appreciate them, but you'll know based off your meta if they have a spot. And then Grots, having 2 OC, always putting one of those guys on your list is going to be good, just like in 1K, just like in 2K. Now, the flexible options, units that maybe you don't see as often, or some people just aren't sure of, put these on your list at 1K, get a good feel for them, and they are likely to perform quite well for you. Now, Grot tanks, right? I know they're a Forge Rule model. Timu, shout out Timu, and other things. Have fun. Another thing, Death Dreads. Grot tanks, rockets, great mobility, separation of wounds is going to be helpful at 1K. Death Dreads, they don't get love at 2K because they're very, very expensive. They hurt your feelings, to be honest, right? But at 1K, guys, there's much less firepower as a whole. And in certain matchups, in certain games, you're going to love the tank shock. You're going to love the ability to do mortal wounds on the charge with him being a great strength and the flat 3 damage. Have fun. Fit him in there. You are going to have to saturate and probably bring 2, in my opinion, or some other thick model to help be as a distraction. But don't be scared to put a Death Dread on the table at 1K. Kill rigs are models that are multi-purpose, right? They give you lethal hits in the command phase. They have auto hitting last cannon shots. They have the ability to transport, and then they themselves fight, right? At 1K, having something that can perform every phase of the game is a strength in itself. I promise you that. Moving on to the custom Booster Blaster. It doesn't get as much love because of the indirect buggy is so much better, but sometimes you just got to opt for cheaper points. Maybe you have Storm Boys already or Bikers to deal with the rest of the table. You don't need a shock jump. Booster Blaster will now give a enemy unit -1 a hit, just as long as you hit them with your Rivet Cannon. And in most cases at 1K, people only have one really terrifying unit. Make that thing -1 to hit, run up to an objective, have flamers, help clear screens, hold OC, enjoy your custom Booster Blasters, enjoy your buggies. Snickrot and Commandos. Snickrot, because some people don't know if they want to pay the premium for the character in the Commandos, that they themselves are already expensive, but his ability to redeploy is vital. The ability to ignore Overwatch on something like a 1K game where Overwatch becomes excessively used and a big problem for Orks. The Commandos will help you deal with that. And sometimes you're paying the premium because you're in that kind of meta will help you. Now, Waaaghtaktiks. He took a hit as people decided Grots are not T5 anymore. And so GW was like, thanks, let's not do that. Waaaghtaktiks was less loved, but at 1K, as the firepower is reduced as a whole, the board where the enemies will be able to get their lines of sight is going to be a little harder sometimes. You'll be able to use his scouting ability to more of your capability and maybe keep him alive and get some more utility out of him. So give him a shot if you really like your Grots. And then a Weird Boy. Weird Boy is just optimal at 2K as well, but at 1K, he might really be that late game plug, as it's maybe you really can't fit that 65 points or for the Storm Boys, or you really don't have a shock jump drag. So get bash a Weird Boy, get that Weird Boy on the list. You can start scoring secondaries late game as long as you're still playing the game for the rest and everything prior to that and utilizing the Weird Boy correctly, because he is quite soft. So keep that in mind as well. So that being said, is there any do we want to talk any of the chat comments? It said this is interesting. This is interesting. I had more 1K points than 2K points of the edition. So I'm curious as to and I'm glad that you're curious. The one thing that I did notice at 1K that really struck me was the fact that you're playing at such a big table. So having great movement and your durability is just greatly increased. So models that already felt durable felt even more durable. And that really feels good as an Orc player, right? Especially if you feel no pain, just throw people off. And let's see what we have. Let's get crumpin'. Let's go. Whoa! Oh, more WAAAGH. It's crumpin'. Yeah, boys. I mean, that's what I've been enjoying most about 10th edition is that you can enjoy combat patrols, you can enjoy 1K games, you can enjoy 2K games. And I really do think a big factor of that, other than the fact that they made list building easier, is the terrain rules. I think terrain rules really helped maybe the immersion, but also helped the battlefield feel kind of split up and not so gamey and annoying. And GW laying out their own terrain also can help you in those cases too. So that's something I really like about this edition is terrain rules really helped make the game just feel correct, in my opinion. Whoa! Super important to talk about 1K games. This is how we grow the tide. That's exactly what we do. The rising of the tide. That's why I like to cover casual too. Have the fun units, play all the phases. Don't worry about what's best. Look about what the beautiful model. Look at something you enjoyed painting. Maybe something's a little dusty and you know that at 2K it's just going to get annihilated. Death Dread. Just go ahead. You'll have a great time because dice are still dice. And when you just have less models to deal with, there's a good chance that your dice can roll forever in your favor. Let's see. Forgot the tier of the most competitive of the Stompa mech and the Mech Boy Workshop. You're right. How could I forget? Daggers already showed us 1K. Well, his was 1,500, but he already showed us. Shout out to Daggers. The Stompa is the most OP when you get to 1,500 points. But because he showed us that, I made sure to just stay in my lane at 1K and not stick over to 1,500. You know, so yeah, Stomp is the best. Is that it? Is that it? All right, everybody. I wanted to go over 1K as a whole. Just give it a quick topic. If you guys feel like you need more immersive and more engaging conversation, or any ways you can critique this video and help us help you and what you really wanted to cover in 1K experience. I didn't want to make it too long, too much to ingest. I more wanted to cover the strengths of what Orks are great at and the data sheets that you can really look out for that maybe be off the top, give you some lists that maybe you can take in a screenshot and then just pull out units that you own by your collection. Don't ever take anything that I'm saying or that we're putting forward here as like a biblical scripture, right? We're advising you and to do something similar and to just have a great experience. And we're giving you the framework and the archetype to what leads to this instead of just strictly, this is what's good, this is what's good, use this, you're going to win, you're going to win. Use what makes you feel good. Use what's relevant to your meta. Use what helps you win the game and get better at 40K as a whole. And a lot of the time, that's the movement phase. So keep that in mind. That movement phase wins you games. That being said, when you take the movement phase, don't cross our wall because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!